Welcome back, folks. So I've been absent for 2 weeks, and that's because the computer broke. Nothing I can do about it, so tragic turn of events, series of events, whatever. But in the meantime, one of the biggest events happened for Wargaming, and that's the first ever Wargaming Fest. So this is basically their BlitzCon, if you will, but without all the cosplay, so no giggly giggly, oh well. But the biggest reveal at this event is the Tier 10 light tanks and the revamp of the light tank class. So no longer there will be a pure scouting job on the battlefield. They'll be more capable at dealing damage, so they'll become more of a medium tank hybrid. And that's pretty crazy because they had the view range, the camo, and now the firepower. You cannot see them, but they have no armor and yeah, no health, but they're pretty sneaky and they'll deal pretty much the same damage as tier 10 mediums. So I think it's OP, but we'll take a look at all the stats of the tier 10 light tanks as well as the stuff they covered in this article talking about Wargaming Fest. So let's go over the article first because everybody knows about it. So they talk about the premium tanks rebuffing or rebalancing, which is pretty good because vehicles like this thing, the 59 Patton, it's pretty bad. Why couldn't it be other way around? I mean, oh well. Also the Scorpion needs a buff, and that happened in 9.15. So yeah, good buffs. But here are the upcoming vehicles that are covered in this article. So the first one is the STRV S1. So this is the prototype version to the S-Tank, the STRV 103. So the order of production is S1, S2, 0 Series, A Series, B Series, C Series, and D Series were never actually mass produced. So that's the line of S-Tanks leading up to the introduction of the Leopard 2 A5. So that's a whole different can of worms, but you know the history if you already watched my channel. So that's the S1, introduced as a premium tier 8 Swedish tank destroyer. So you could try out the hydropneumatic suspension with the siege mode in this premium vehicle while you're grinding crew XP and credits with it. So that's pretty nice actually when you think about it, but this is going to be tier 8, so pretty fair. It's going to have 105, but we'll take a look at the stats coming right up. So that's the skateboard ramp of a vehicle. It does have the siege mode, S-Tank siege mode. Ugh, hard to pronounce this stuff. But here is the upcoming Object 252U. So this is going to be a tier 8 premium Russian heavy tank. In layman's terms, it's basically IS-7's hull with IS-6 turret and IS-3's Top Gun, the BL-13. Did I mention IS-7's hull as a premium tier 8? Russian bias, oh my god. I mean, come on, we already have like a bunch of pike-shaped nose Russian heavy tanks at tier 8. You have like IS-3A, IS-5, Kurvets 1, Kryslovsky's KV-4, KV-4 KTTS, which is a tank destroyer, but still a heavy tank, technically, but whatever. And you have this thing, and the KV-5. Did I mention KV-5? I think I already did, but yeah. How many premium tier 8 Russian heavy tanks are there? Holy crap. And the IS-6, don't forget. So yeah. Holy crap, that's a lot of Russian heavy tanks, but this thing has IS-7's hull armor, so 130mm well sloped. And we'll take a look at the actual armor model coming right up, but yeah, that's pretty crazy. And here are the tech tree revamp. So the T28 and T95s are getting a speed boost, so yeah, they're no longer super slow. Doom Turtle is, well, theoretically the top speed of these vehicles historically is about 13 kilometers per hour top speed, so I think they're going to buff it to historically inaccurate top speed, like 20 or 25, which is going to be crazy because, well, then again, the horsepower per turn ratio is not that great. Well, you do get pushed, who knows, but yeah, it's going to be a buff. So the Japanese are going to have the heavily armored vehicles buffed, so we'll get heavier and lose speed. It will be similar to OI, and trade is 110 for thicker frontal armor. So there's going to be armor buffs, mostly. And the Germans are the biggest one, because they're going to get 3 new vehicles from this little chart. So as you can see from the Tiger P, you will be able to research the VK101P, which is the Mammut. So it got rebuffed and reworked. Then goes into the Moist Hen, the Mouse Chin. People always complain about my pronunciation of the Mouse Chin, the Moist Hen, whatever you call it. So the pre-production model of the mouse right here. And there's going to be a Panzerwagon 7 right here. So it looks like the icon for VK7201K, but I don't know what this vehicle is. I highly doubt they're going to take the Clan Wars tier 10 reward tank and make it a normal tank, because that's not fair for people who already have it. So unless they get compensated with another vehicle, but yeah, there's going to be 3 new super heavy German heavy tanks. So that's the revamp for Germans, but what's missing is the second line of French heavy tanks with stuff like the AMX 65T, 70T, and we're 75T or 72T, I don't know, the Ameliore. So we already talked a lot about it with the 65T's video, but they did not mention it. So that's all the articles about what's coming soon on the main webpage, but they did not talk about the tier 10 light tanks. So they talk about the sandbox, they're going to fix artillery, and the overmatch ricochet rule. So alright, but let's take a look at the Object 252. So here is the Object 252U, alternate version of the IS-6. So basically IS-7's hull with IS-6 turret, and BL-13, IS-3's Top Gun. So hull armor is you gotta be kidding, 130mm well sloped, effectively 310mm to 370ish, 380ish, 330ish right here, but still, this is a tier 8 premium tank, which makes a lot more credits than XP. What? Lower plate is 140, well sloped to about 220mm effective to 240ish. Did I mention this is a tier 8? It has the IS-6 turret, which is well sloped, 250mm effective on the mantlet to auto bounce. The cupola is the weak spot, but it's a small target, so side armor is 100mm, so yeah, yep, 100mm. Rear armor is 90. So let's take a look at the collision model, because that's more accurate. So 100mm, yep. It's a tier 8, by the way. So driver hatch is 60mm. Good luck overmatching that. You're not going to overmatch it. You do have a strip of 250 for the top of the driver hatch. Turret ring is 250. Cheeks are 250. Yeah. The cupola is the main weak spot, but if you wiggle, if you add 200 meters of distance, I can't talk, but yeah, hitting this weak spot, not that easy. So yeah, let's take a look at the actual stats of this vehicle. So DPM is actually quite good, alright-ish, but 1,700 is not that bad. Alpha is pretty high, 440 for tier 8. Penetration is pretty good, 225. Reloads every 15.34 seconds, but that will go down to 13 seconds or so with a gun rammer and vents, so that's still alright considering the armor of this vehicle. Yeah, accuracy, Russian. Aim time, Russian. So not that special. Also, ammo count is 30, which is like the IS-6 or IS-3A, so kinda crappy, but it's an AP shell. Flies relatively fast, 1000 meters per second, so pretty good. Health is average, and view range is Russian, crap. Radio range, Russian, crap. Top speed is relatively good for a heavy tank. Reverse is 14. Horsepower per ton ratio is actually, pretty good. 13.67. Traverse is 30 degrees per second. Terrain resistance, below average. It's alright, but still, it's heavy. But it's compensated by better horsepower per ton ratio, so it counteracts each other. Gun elevation is 20. Depression is 6, which is good for a Russian tank. So it's like the Object 140. Gun traverse is up and down, so that's like the horizontal traverse for the turret, so 25 degrees per second-ish. Yeah, it's good enough. So, by the way, it's a premium tank, so I think this thing is OP because the armor on the hull and on the turret, and you can side scrape. So yeah, is it worth it? Hell yes. It's tier 10's hull armor on a tier 8 with premium status. Hell yeah, it's worth it. So here's taking a look at the S1 STRV. Or here are the initial stats of the Object 252. So here you can see the initial armor is 90mm, but they changed it to 130. So, yep, initial gun was the IS-5 or IS-3A's gun, but they changed it to the BL9. Well, it was the BL13. What? They changed the BL9? Whoa, whoever, no, I don't even know, whatever. But yeah, they changed it. So, they nerfed the gun, quote unquote, but it's still pretty good. But they buffed the frontal hull armor from 90 to 130. So that's a major difference. It's still a tier 8 premium tank with relatively good camouflage values. And it weighs about 50 tons with pretty good horsepower per ton ratio. So go ramming with this vehicle. Yep. But here are the pictures of the S1, the STRV 103 S1. So premium tier 8 Swedish tank destroyer. Will make a lot of credits, but you still have to play with the siege mode to help you get used to the tier 10 and the tier 9, as well as the tier 8, but to some degree. But yeah, it doesn't have the cage armor, doesn't have the rib armor, so no armor, quote unquote. But does have the commander cupola, that's the prominent weak spot. So I cannot read Russian, but I can tell you that the gun's penetration is pretty high for a tier 8. Accuracy in moving mode is not that accurate. And aim time, this is the aim time. Reloads 10.2 seconds, I believe. Rest of these numbers, I cannot tell. That's traverse. I think that's traverse. That's view range. 1000. What the hell is 1000? No clue. It's a tier 8, but 1000 something. I don't know. Special units? 1000 happiness, I guess. But yeah, that's the S1. So here is the tier 10 light tanks. So at tier 10 for the French, we have the AMX 13105. That's right, we're getting the 105mm on the AMX chassis, or AMX 13 chassis. So logical, I guess, but would be preferable if you have it at tier 7. That would be OP, but it does get side skirts for the tracks, so alright. But it has 105mm, obviously. It has a 3-round clip. DPM is not that great. Takes about 40 seconds to reload. So it's like the Batchat with 2 less rounds. Also the accuracy is like the Batchat. Same goes for the aim time. 8 degrees of gun depression, 12 elevation. Traverse is pretty good. About 40 for the turret and about 40 for the hull. So there's a 3-round clip. Takes 2.5 seconds between each shot. Alpha is 290, penetration is 234, so not as good as the Batchat, but it's a light tank. So camouflage is pretty good for a light. View range is 420, so it's like the Patton. Accuracy is eh. Aim time meh. Horsepower per ton ratio is only 15.63, so this is kind of questionable because the 1390 has about 20, so this is kind of low for horsepower per ton ratio for a light tank. And terrain resistance, I guess that's average. Looks average to me. I mean, what's good is 0.4 for hard, 0.5 for medium, and about 1 for soft. This is more of a medium tank's terrain resistance. So, and mobility wise, AMX 13105 doesn't look as fast as tier 8, current tier 8 light tanks, but the current tier 8s will become tier 9 light tanks. They will be buffed up to a higher tier. So we'll take a look at all the stuff coming soon, but that's the initial reveal. So health is French, 1400, weighs about 16 tons. You could fire high explosive into the tank, but takes 40 seconds to reload for 3 rounds. So initial burst is 1170. So it's still pretty good, but you have 2 less rounds compared to the Bat Chat, and the Bat Chat is more of a light tank-ish. So yeah, the horsepower per ton ratio is the weak spot if you look at it. Oh well. So here is the initial screenshot of the Rheinmetall Panzerwagon, or Panzerwagon, whatever you call it. But here they call it the Spahpanzer 57. So looks like a bigger or modified Spahpanzer RU251. But it has 105mm as well. It also looks like the Kanonang Jagdpanzer's hull as well, but it's based off the RU251, so yeah, relatively German design, so pretty nice. But this vehicle has 242mm of pin. DPM is actually like a medium tank, about 2,700, so that's pretty good. That's pretty good. View range 440, that's like crazy. That's even better than the current top view range, which is the Patton's 420. So that's the highest view range you could get. No, the highest is 445, but yeah, just pretty good. Camo is actually not that bad too. Accuracy 0.345. Pretty good for a light tank when considering 1.8 seconds of aim time, 10 degrees of gun depression, turret traverse is pretty fast, hull traverse is pretty fast too. Horsepower per ton ratio is 27.78. So yeah, it's fast. 75 km per hour top speed, 25 for reverse. Pretty good. Terrain resistance, it's alright, but that's mitigated by the high horsepower per ton ratio, so yeah. 1,600 health, so quite more chunky than the AMX version. So this vehicle is actually pretty scary when you think about it, because it's fast, has insane view range. Armor is crap, 30mm, but whatever. But you have some good, quote-unquote, good accuracy with penetration and alpha, but look at the DPM. It's about the same as a medium tank. So would you rather play a medium tank with some more armor and slightly better accuracy, or would you rather play a vehicle with more view range and faster horsepower per ton ratio and terrain resistance and top speed? I would prefer the speed over the armor, but that's just me. So yeah, this tank is pretty good. I mean, the stock gun is also not that bad to grind up to the 105. I presume you have to grind for it because there are 2 guns. Unless you unlock it on the RU251, the 90mm. Do you? Oh no. But still, it's a pretty. I think this is actually the best view range for all the tier 10 lights. We'll take a look at the other ones. So here is the reveal of the Russian T100 light tank. So it's basically a flat, smushed, elongated T-54. There are blueprints, and the Russian designers are not kind to the crew members because it's super cramped in this vehicle. It's basically a super flat Object 777 with a smushed turret. Pancake designs. Oh man, this thing. I mean, it looks kind of long too for a Russian tank, but here are the main stats. Penetration is actually quite good. It's 100mm rather than 105. So alpha is a little bit low, but DPM is still pretty good. View range 420. So pretty good. Better camo than the AMX. Accuracy is not that great. 0.422. Aim time is 1.9, but it's a Russian tank. 5 degrees of gun depression, 15 elevation. Traverse for the hull and turret is pretty fast. So horsepower per ton ratio is 20. Wait a minute. This thing weighs 15 tons. It has 120mm of frontal armor. Whoa. Hold on a second. This thing weighs 15 tons. It has 120mm of frontal hull armor. That's like the T-54 right here. That's 120. But this vehicle weighs 15 tons with 180mm of turret armor. What? How do you have that much armor for such a low weight? It has a 300 horsepower engine with 20 horsepower per ton ratio, 56 hull traverse, top speed of 72 kilometers per hour, reverse is 25. Terrain resistance is below average, but that's mitigated by the... Well, then again, not really. It's a light tank. I'm thinking about it as a medium. It's a light, so it's not as fast as other light tanks, but hell, it has 120mm of frontal hull armor, 180 for the turret, fires APCR. Wait, whoa. APCR is the default. Wait. Default ammo is APCR. Gold ammo is AP. That's a new one. That's interesting. But wait. Is it reversed? But APCR has less penetration. What the frick? Interesting. So, yeah. Russian tier 10. Light tank. Pretty good camo. Pretty good hull armor. Accuracy is god awful. Such meme. Much nice. Much nice? Sure. But here is the reveal of the American, the XM551. Yep, Sheridan. There we go. But it's the prototype, so it's not actually the Sheridan, but close enough. Well, not really. But then again, it's close enough. So it does have the T-49's turret, which is the XM551 turret, with the gun launcher, the 152. So no ATGM, no TOW missiles. The tube-launched, optically tracked, wire-guided missiles. Nope. Wait, did they fire tow launchers? I think they did. Or some variant of a missile launcher, but still. You're not going to get anti-tank guided missiles in armor warfare in World of Tanks, because it will just obliterate heavy armored vehicles like Mouses, because ATGMs have about 600mm of penetration for high explosive anti-tank shells, shaped charges, or high explosive anti-tank warheads for ATGMs. So they have super high penetration because they are shaped charges and they just melt Mouses or T-95s like no tomorrow. So yeah, there's no missiles for this vehicle, but it has a 105mm gun or the missile launcher thing. So if you choose to use the 105, it has relatively okay penetration, 390 alpha. DPM is like a medium, so that's pretty good. View range is not as good, and camo is also not as good, but accuracy is also better, at least, than the Russian. Aim time is a little bit longer, 10 degrees of gun depression. Traverse is decent. 18.3 horsepower per ton ratio, weighs about 15 tons. Hull traverse is 50 degrees per second. Top speed is 65 kilometers per hour. Turn resistance is average, so health is also below average, only 1400. So the Sheridan looks like you could fire a high explosive anti-tank with the gun launcher thing, but that's the same gun as the tier 8, the T-49, which is going to become tier 9. So alright, moving on to the next one. It's kind of mediocre. Doesn't have the armor though. Nah, not like the Russian. Only 25.4, but this thing is basically space armor all the way around. So this box thing are all space armor. So all of this is space armor for the frontal plate, space armor. So shooting at this with high explosive anti-tank, probably not going to penetrate, but who knows. So here is the final reveal for the Chinese. So this is the WZ132-1. So it's 105mm strap onto a Type 62 or WZ132, one of the which, but not that many pictures. So here are some initial models without the HD renders, but this little cage on the turret is going to be space armor. So like the cage armor on the STRV 103, shooting at this with high explosive anti-tank, not going to penetrate, but here are the main stats. So penetration is relatively good for a tier 10 light. So DPM is pretty good, 2700. Accuracy is not that great, 0.4. Aim time 1.9. So yeah, 5 degrees of gun depression, 20 elevation, 410 meters of view range, 28% camo rating. So yeah, weighs about 25 tons. 23.2 horsepower per ton ratio, top speed of 64, reverse of 23, terrain resistance is better than the other ones, other light tanks, and health is of a tier 8 heavy. So hull armor is 50 at the front, turret armor is 200mm. What? This little light tank has 200mm of turret armor. But then again, it weighs more than the T100 light tank, the Russian version. But the Russian version has 120 for the frontal hull. This thing has 50. So, well, there you go, folks. Tier 10 light tanks. So, this thing too, Object 252. So yeah, that's all the new tanks covered in Wargaming Fest that happened like last 2 days ago, but whatever. So yeah, insane stuff. So basically, in my honest opinion, the best tier 10 light tank is actually this vehicle right here. Not this, such meme. Is actually this vehicle right here. So I believe the Rheinmetall Panzerwagon, or they call it the Spahpanzer 57, this is actually the best tier 10 light tank because the accuracy of the gun, the DPM of the gun, the 27.7 horsepower per ton ratio, or 27 point something, 27.7, yep, horsepower per ton ratio, the top speed, the terrain resistance, the insane view range. This is actually the best tier 10 light tanks. But as usual, all these stats are preliminary, so they're subject to change, but holy crap, I mean, there's some good ones like this thing. It has 120mm of frontal hull armor, 180 on the turret, but this thing weighs 15 tons. It weighs about the same as the AMX-13, but it's a Russian tank, so Russian bias. Also, the Chinese have 200mm of turret armor. So the Sheridan is okay, but it's not special. Same goes for the AMX 1390, 13105. These two other light tanks are not as crazy as the Chinese, the Russians, or the Germans. So taking a look at the Chinese, you have 100, it's not 100, it's 200mm of turret armor. So yeah, 200mm of turret frontal armor, 160 for the sides. What? 20 for the tracks. That's not rear turret. So yeah, 200mm for a turret armor on a light tank. So would you rather play medium tanks or would you rather play light tanks? Well, light tanks are way faster than mediums, but that comes at a cost of accuracy mostly, and somewhat of the armor and health. But as you saw, some of these tanks have about the same armor as tier 10 mediums. Basically the Russian one, as well as the Chinese one, so yeah, black sheeps, outliers, but yeah, they're pretty crazy. These are light tanks, so you will have to erase what you already know about light tanks. It's not the same anymore. So these vehicles are going to be somewhat heavy hitters because most of them have the same DPM as medium tanks. And accuracy is not as good, but they're fast with camo and view range. Is that scary? I think that's scary. I mean, imagine people getting pissed off at E25s. These vehicles are basically tier 10 E25s. Because, yeah, camo, right? But I mean, it's not as crazy with the camouflage factor, but compared to a medium, these tanks are pretty stealthy. And they're a lot faster. So would you rather trade the armor when you're playing a medium tank at tier 10 for better speed and better camo at the cost of armor and accuracy? That's a hard question. I mean, there are going to be powerhouses, that's for sure, but which flavor? Armor and health and accuracy, or speed and mobility and camo and view range? So that's the balance of the stuff. So you have to decide for yourself, but light tanks will be shunned no longer because they will be pretty good now. So there you go, folks. That's the most of the stuff I missed these last 2 weeks. Also, there are going to be a review of what's happened or what happened for 2016 for me. So I'll do the review of the year-end celebratory event review thing. So we'll take a look back at what happened this year with the physics stuff, the sandbox stuff. So yeah, there you go, folks. Man, this video was long, but I'll try to do everything because I have to do the catch up since the computer broke. So lost all the templates, all the contents, have to reforge and forage, that's a good word, for all the contents. So I'll try to do it, but there you go, folks. All the upcoming tanks for 2017, hopefully. And there were rumors about the Polish revitalization, but that's just a rumor, so we'll see. But there you go, folks. Thank you guys for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.